And we're live. Another episode.
Episode 15, and it's
15.
featuring my cousin.
There you go. Incredible.
Oh.
Family first.
What's good, Hamoud? How's things?
Excellent. Things are great. I mean, as great as they could be, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole, staying indoors, social distancing.
Yeah, I kind of feel like people have forgotten that this virus even exists.
To be honest, but it's good to have you. Oh man, every month is something new. So we were saying the past few episodes.
Yeah, people's attention spans.
New, so we keep forgetting.
That is true.
Yeah.
People's attention spans
totally
are so
agree.
short. So yes, you switch up, you move up.
So let us know about you, Hamoud. Let us know what you do, how you know us, what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so obviously you're my cousin, so thank you for having me on. And then
you're more than welcome.
The other Ali, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be your friend. So I just got introduced about a few minutes ago. So hi.
Hello. Nice to meet
what
you.
I do, I'm an engineer by trade, but I never actually practiced. I went into business right from the get-go. I actually made a decision to go into my family business and then, take that to whatever next level that I can do. Learned a lot throughout the process. I did do business school at some point. And ever since, over the last 5 years, I want to say I've been back. The main things I've been involved in has been building business divisions and managing the real estate portion, learning more every day, and trying our best to grow out that division, or let's say that core competency of the business. And yeah, being just a curious person, learning many different skills along the way. I've also done my own personal investments every now and then. And as I was just talking to you guys, before we got on live, found my first successes this year, actually in 2020, which is it's good. And also not as exciting as it would be given the situation and COVID and, the uncertainty in the markets coming in the future. But that's essentially what I do and, know in a nutshell.
You know what? That's very cool. So you're the classic example of your degree doesn't dictate what you do in life. I'd like to say.
Right, absolutely. That's such a great thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So just because I'm studying medicine doesn't mean I have to be a doctor. I can be a TV show host or something.
Hola,
because you're an engineer doesn't mean just because you're. I mean, Ali, you're a film psychologist and behavioral. I messed that up. You're a film director and a behavioral psychologist.
Yeah.
But does that mean you're gonna stick to behavioral psychologist? No.
Well, the thing is, if you really think you have to stop learning once you graduate college, and that's very short-sighted and silly, right? You graduate college. Yeah. If you're doing an undergrad, you graduated 22, 23, and then you have the rest of your life. You're supposed to just do the same thing over and over again every single day. Really? You know what I mean? It's
not really.
Exactly. You're not supposed to. Exactly. We're meant to learn and try different things, and especially when we're younger, to go and fail. And I feel like in the Middle East, it's very short side. It's people I know back in Lebanon, right? It's you either have to be a doctor, right, or an engineer. Or a lawyer. These are the paths, right? And then once you graduate from college, you have to do those.
In the Arabic world, that's it. That's your three options. You're either an engineer, doctor, or lawyer. Yeah. Other than that, you're homeless.
And then, now you have a bunch of homeless lawyers, doctors, and engineers in Lebanon. That's what happened because everyone did that. Yeah.
No, but you can't compare Lebanon to Lebanon's a special case because of the stuff that's been going on. But if you look at a country like Kuwait, no, it's you're guaranteed a job, kind of. It depends on what you do.
We don't know that anymore.
Yeah,
I mean that's true. But if we're talking about for example, doctors and dentists, they're guaranteed a job where you can never have enough doctors. Engineers nowadays, compared to the years previously, it's a little bit more. It's not that guaranteeing. But
right. Actually,
so go ahead.
No, yeah, that's what you're saying is actually really, really important. And even the whole thing about learning and developing. One of the things that I think even in our society that we're not given at an early age is that pursuit of learning and things that are very varied. And also, yeah, you're right. the way that we have is like doctor, engineer, lawyer, and then you fit in that bucket and you hope for the best. But yeah, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm just going to add on to what you said. There's a very famous quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says, we're taught all our lives to walk and talk, and then ending up growing to being told what? To shut up and sit down.
Shut up and sit down.
Something
Yes,
to that
it's
extent,
very,
you know.
Yeah, that's
it's
funny.
very true. So so that's why I respect this cousin out of all my cousins the most, is because he showed me that just because you get that degree doesn't mean you have to do, you know, what you got, you know. So I don't have to work in a hospital. I can do whatever I want. All I need is a little backup plan. I don't know if that's
a little backup plan.
Yeah, like just a little like.
Or some people actually like to burn the ships and just go forward. So that's also one of those things where some people will really say, burn the ships. And it's, I think, a quote from, I don't even remember, but essentially a group of individuals were stranded on an island and they could either go in and defeat whoever was there or retreat. And so they burn the ships and they decide, we're going to make it work. So when you have that kind of pressure, sometimes you tend to do a lot better than you think you could, you know? And it is definitely true.
Or you get killed by the people who are there. Or you get people.
Or you get killed. Yeah.
You know, it's an option.
It's an
option.
Yeah,
so from what you've told me, you're very into the stock market and investing, and a lot of my friends actually, like the other day, one of my good friends, he knows who he is, so shout out to you. He told me it's the time for investing in these huge companies is now. I don't know why. He never explained why. He was just like, Ali, if you're going to invest like right now.
Because it's tanking.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what do you think about
topic.
this?
What a topic. Yeah. So just to have a little bit of background and understand where I'm coming from, talking about this, when I did do my MBA, I gravitated towards finance, and I took a keen interest in stocks and, you know, the stock market and how that works, all the way through derivatives, options, all of that stuff, which we don't need to really get into. It's besides the point. But where it did help me was later on how I made my investment decisions, things like that. You know, I'll be the first to say that not all of them pan out great. You know, a lot of times we want to say that we made the right decision every time. But the truth of the matter is that it takes a lot of learning, it takes a lot of commitment and dedication. And one of the most common things I see, you know, I one of my closest best friends in life. We connected quite deeply on the topic of investing and all, just because that was something that came up a lot. And I realized that a lot of the questions that he had, a lot of people have, and that the basics, the fundamentals of what's going on is something that I think very few people really know or understand, or it's like a big black box.
Yeah.
And if you'd like, we can unpack it a little bit. I mean, one of my other friends just talked to me the other day, and he said, I invested in these two companies. And well, actually, first he said, I need your advice on investing. And, you know, I know you know a few things here and there. And then all of a sudden he was like, I picked these two companies. And I thought, wow, classic mistake.
So classic mistake. Why is that a classic mistake? What do you mean it's a classic mistake to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Well, this topic is so big. I really want to just touch on some of the things that'll get people excited about, you know, just delving in a little further. And again, caveat this with, the more you go in, the more questions you'll have, the more unanswered questions you'll have, and the more black box like it will look. But the reason I call that a classic mistake was because something well known in investing is diversification. So when you group a bunch of stocks together, or you take a bunch of different companies, you essentially are smoothing out your risk or decreasing your risk. Whether that's true all the time or not, I know you can't say. But I mean, you know, risk, if we want to define risk as well, risk in terms of the market is just how much it goes up and down. That's the volatility. You know, how much do you expect to jump up or down in a given day? So, you know, let's say you invested $10,000 and tomorrow it's 5,000, the day after it's 15, the day after it's, you know, 3, the day after it's 30. You're not going to sleep well at night. And So one of the best ways to curb that is to buy, a bunch of stocks or have a portfolio. And then that goes into the next question, which is, well, which stocks do I buy and how many? And do I, combine that with bonds and all of those? But I'm curious to know what interests you in these questions.
That's wow. I wonder, is it the same in Kuwait, the same in the United States, kind of how the stock markets run? Does each country have their own little like stock market? I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like when you
most countries do.
Like when you say diversify, right? Like the Kuwait has its own like index funds on like the different companies in Kuwait, and I'd assume the same in Lebanon. Does Lebanon have its own? I wouldn't know. I don't know if you'd know.
I mean, most likely, because then there isn't, I don't know. Take it away, Mohammad. I think you know.
Yes.
I'm sure every country does have their own stock exchange. Well, why don't we start at the beginning? I mean, what is a stock exchange, right? So this is something that I find a lot of people also have. I mean, it's just, we never talk about it. Are you guys familiar with what a stock exchange is?
I think so. Let me say, and if it's right, let me know. So it's basically you invest money in this growing company and they promise you returns by like a certain percentage. So to each dollar they make off of you, as they grow, they will return, for example, 2% within a specific set amount of time. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close. If I could put it in a few words, not to bore you guys and or whoever is listening.
This is interesting.
Tell us. It's very interesting.
This is very interesting. But let's go.
All right. So one of the basic idea of the stock market is once a company, any company, private company, reaches a point where, let's say they have a certain amount of revenues, they have a certain amount of profit and a certain amount of whatever it is, and they decide that we want to grow and we want to raise capital, which means we need money because we want to now grow a little more. We don't want to wait and do this slowly. Maybe they believe that if they grow quickly, they can overtake the competition, whatever reasons. They need money and they would like the public's money to grow, among other people. I'll just be very basic here. There's caveats to a lot of things, as in the stock market, especially true. But generally, that's what they do. So what they do is an initial public offering. So that's the first time that they offer their shares on the public markets. And all that means is that they're going to say, we have, whatever, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million shares, and we're going to offer it to whoever wants to buy it. Now, normally they would have sold a bunch of these to different people, like the people who underwrite this, but that's not really important now. But what's more important is that they offer it to the public. And once those are sold, they now have cash or money they can use to grow. And that's true. That is the promise, that they will grow and that they will return a dividend at some point in the future, maybe not initially, and or their stock will increase in value. So whoever invested will be able to sell it at hopefully a higher price. Classic buy low, sell high. And essentially, once that initial public offering is done, you're trading papers of the company. And so the stock market is literally 2 rows for each company. And there's 1 row of people who are requesting to buy shares in that company and people requesting to sell them. And whenever there's a match, that's when a trade is executed.
Yeah.
That's simple. It's literally just lines and rows of people saying, I have 100 shares of these. I want to sell these 100 at this price. And so once the 2 match, and let's say you have 100 shares, you want to sell at $5 a share, and Ali's willing to buy 100 shares at $5 a share, you guys can execute a trade. And whatever the stock price you see, that's the last trade that was made, whether it was a buy or a sell.
That's pretty cool. But I really want to get into some of the myths. Now, I'm sure we've all here watched The Wolf of Wall Street. And so I want to get into some of the myths and I want to know if they're like true or not, or are they like loosely true. So until what point can it become illegal?
Oh, very simple. What's called insider trading.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah, insider trading. You know, we know that the markets follow what essentially what people's perception is of a company, right? So there's, you know, a study called efficient market theory, and it tells you that either, you know, the stocks do follow news or they don't, among other things. But one of the simple things is that, let's say you own a company, you own a, let's say a milk producing company, and you know that one of the batches is contaminated, right? And nobody knows that, you know, this news has not come out to the public, and one of the big batches or one of the big plants has been contaminated with E. coli or something. Now you, Ali, you know this information, and you tell yourself, well, that means that this stock price is going to go down as soon as people realize this, and definitely there's going to be a press release. So what do? You know, one of your friends tells you, or you know something about the company, and then you short sell the stock. A press release comes out, stock drops, and you make
you save your money.
Difference on the that's illegal.
Yeah,
because you're only allowed to trade on what's public information.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I don't know if you heard how in the States, right before COVID, a bunch of senators started selling all their stocks right before it went crashing the stock market, and then they got away with it. And I don't know if you heard about what happened here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, you can't fault that logic.
Yeah.
If you see a catastrophe coming your way, and something like COVID, and it seems like what happened is that they thought to themselves that this is going to be a big deal. A pandemic is probably not good for the economy. And so I would rather hold cash than, you know, have stocks or have, you know, stocks in the market. Or maybe they, you know, whatever it is that they did. But I don't know the extent of that story. If you want to tell me more about it.
I don't know too much either. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, here's another myth that it's very, very easy to become an overnight millionaire through stock trading and stock markets.
Sure, there are people who have done that, and I mean, given the number of people who trade on any given day with many different ideas of what they should do, eventually one or two or even 1,000 of them will make the absolute right decisions at the right time. But generally speaking, those are anomalies. And
can you say it's pure luck? Would you say it's pure luck?
Or are they smart at it? Is it both?
I mean, statistically speaking, let's go by statistics, right? And this is something I was taught in college under one of my favorite professors. And one of the things that I gathered was that year after year, the number of, let's say, investment managers or so who beat the market is roughly 50%, roughly speaking, 50%. And there was a famous Warren Buffett bet that he said, if anybody can beat, you know, a benchmark like the S&P 500, again, I can't remember the exact details, but he said, if anybody could beat it consistently or something to that, I will, you know, I will give you $1 million as a bet, roughly. And it took, I think recently somebody might have, but it took like 20 years or something like that, where on average, people do not beat the benchmark, even sophisticated investors. Now, again, there's caveats to everything. The only class or group of stock market investors that tend to do that very well are anomalies like Warren Buffett or the high frequency traders, which is a completely different side of investing. It has nothing to do with the companies are actually investing. It's just completely different.
I see. So what about, like, I have one of my good friends as well. He used to be with me in Jordan. He told me investing in real estate is the best kind of investment you can do because you'll never lose. True or false?
Yeah. So I am a big believer in real estate. I got introduced to it about 5 years ago after I'd been more versed in stocks. And that was something that I was considering, but one of the reasons that I did go back to my family business was because we had begun investing in real estate. And that was something that I was very keen to learn about. Can it never lose? Absolutely not. It absolutely can lose. You know, you can buy in the wrong location. You can build the wrong type of property. You can buy a property with more problems than it has income. So always, you know, never take these rules of thumb as true. Things that are too good to be true are too good to be true in the investing world. Most of the time, it's going to take a while, even in stocks. You can get lucky for sure. But that's not a strategy. I wouldn't make luck my strategy. In real estate, now here's one of the ways that real estate differs from stocks. In real estate, you're able to leverage your properties. And that's not to say that you cannot trade, you know, do margin trading in stocks where you do leverage your stocks. But it's generally not as common in stocks or among normal, you know, the normal set of investors. But in real estate, it's a very common practice to leverage your real estate, which simply means to use a loan to improve your returns. Again, using loans exposes you to more risk. So yes, when you have a loan and things go bad, like now in this economy, you are exposed to more risk, which is why the CBK, the Central Bank of Kuwait, essentially what they did is they pushed all of the payments 6 months, because they know that that would create a domino effect. You know, if the real estate owners can't pay their loans,
that's so smart. That's just so smart. The Kuwaiti did that. I wish he did that here in the States. So the States is still like a free for all. That it's like no one really knows. Well, everyone's like rent's on pause technically, and we're supposed to pay rent back after the crisis is over, right? But all these people that haven't been working these months and months after. Right, they declare the national emergency is over. They have like 12 months, at least in Los Angeles, to pay back the rent. I don't know,
all the rent.
All the rent they missed out on. So basically, like they'd have to pay like whatever, double the rent. I mean, I'm assuming, and especially if you haven't been working this past while, and if you've lost your job, right? It really is, interesting what's gonna happen once they like say, okay, guys, we're back to normal. All right, everyone pay up. Yeah.
That's another reason why I don't understand the markets right now. I'm like actually a little confused. You know, every like the markets are, you know, rallying or going up at this point in time. And they've essentially recovered. Like, you know, almost recovered. And hello, I think I might have gotten cut off. There we go.
Yeah, you're good.
No, you're good. So your voice was on. It's just your video.
Oh, okay, So essentially the markets have recovered, but every indicator is just telling me that things don't look that good. You have unemployment going up. You have a very volatile situation here, especially with real estate. I mean, who knows how many of these guys will start defaulting on their payments, meaning just simply not paying back their bank loans, because as we know, a lot of real estate is leveraged. A lot of it is. And I mean, it's very hard to, I mean, like somebody who wants to invest at this time, somebody like you or Ali, it would be very easy to think, oh yeah, I mean, things are only going to go up from here, but they've already recovered quite significantly.
But what does that mean for it to have recovered, right? When like we're just, I mean, it doesn't feel like it's recovered, you know, the whole economy. So all these businesses are closed. So it's going up, right? Like the stocks are like, or like they've.
Ali, screen share a picture of stock graph.
Gotcha. Yes.
So if you search the S&P 500 stock graph, for example.
All right. Classic.
You'll see that it takes a dip about, 2 months ago in March.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right. What is the state? Let's go 6 months.
And just hit.
Yeah.
You can hit 5 years. Let's do 5 years.
Let's do 5 years. All righty.
Yeah. Look at that dip at the very end.
Oh, that's huge. That is kind of huge. And that's kind of huge dip.
It's quite big. Yeah, it is quite big. And then now it's almost back to where it was.
Yeah. Interesting.
And, the S&P 500 is a group of companies. And I mean, that is a benchmark, essentially something that some people would say this is the market, depends on, whatever
go back
your
to
idea
5 years. Go to the lowest point in 2020.
Yes.
The lowest point. Yeah. So that's March, around
20.
March 14.
March 20 is the exact
right there.
Yeah.
So Hamoud, here's a question. If I were to invest then, like right there,
You'd
at
be
that point,
getting it big. Yeah. You can
would
see
it
it.
really be that big?
I mean,
Yeah, but you'd have to know that that's a relative. So it went from 2,400 something, and then show me where it is right now.
3,200.
So
It's right
3,000.
now
Yeah, it's like 50%.
3,210.
That's a good amount.
So a decent percentage up. Yeah, which is, that's great. But here's the real dilemma. How do you know when to invest? And so that goes to a very like a very simple quote, and one that I abide by. Again, everybody has their own idea, because if this was a science, which it is when you're talking about high frequency trading to a certain degree, I don't know that world as well as some, but I do know a few things about that. I was quite interested. But generally speaking, time in the market is better than timing the market. A lot of people wait until they think the market is down and now. But if you've been invested for a while, let's say you invested at any point in that curve before the dip, and then you saw your stocks go down, well, you could just very simply buy more when it's low. So that's called, lowering your average.
That's interesting. I feel like now, because getting stocks are so easy. I mean, with all these apps, right, that you can literally buy stocks on. I feel like all these younger people are just buying stocks right now.
Hey, that's
just
great.
because it's hot, and that's
Randomly,
great. Yeah, random, but it does feel kind of random, right? If you had resources, right, how would you like allocate them? If I get like, I don't know, like whatever, 4 stocks, right?
I
Should I buy
always
them all
say
at
the
once?
same
Yes.
thing, and this is what I do. My main thing is I just invest in a S&P 500 index fund. And that to me, and I have a very simple reason why I do that. And, some people will definitely fault that. And, and some people, that's what they do. Some people prefer to pick their own stocks, and there's potentially more to be made when you're picking your own stocks, potentially. But there's also more, more risk. Let's say you only have 3, one of them really performs poorly, then, your whole portfolio takes a hit as a result. So I essentially invest in something like a spider, which it tracks. So all it's trying to do is be exactly like the full S&P 500 companies. And I just buy that, and I set it and I forget it. And I'll add money to it whenever I have spare cash. And that to me is more than good enough, because that, in my opinion, I'm betting on the US market, and that's something I'm comfortable doing.
Yes.
And
that's interesting. Yeah.
And again, you could very easily say that, you have to go and try different ones, but what they're essentially a diversified set of stocks, which is what I want. And they balance them out on their own, because if I'm investing in a bunch of different stocks, I have to balance them, theoretically, according to a certain principle, something like, I only want 20% of my capital in this type of company. So technology companies. Well, let's say you have 20% of your capital in things like Apple, Google, Microsoft, whatever, and all of a sudden they start going up really high. Well, do you still believe that you only want 20% of your capital in those type of companies? Because if they increase in value quite a bit, well, now they're taking up more of your portfolio space. So they might be worth now 30%. So you have to rebalance it. So I just don't have the time to do that. So I just invest in an index fund, and call it a day.
No, that's good. Yeah. And with time, definitely it'll grow, right? If you keep doing it consistently. I'm just looking at this graph. Like it's just bound to grow. It's always has. Well, I mean, it always has, right? Hasn't had a dip yet. I mean, is that a possibility? I don't know if that in the finance world, that's a thing. That like, could it go like south from here? Yeah. Or is it always going to grow?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we could see things, rally. And again, remember, stocks are trading on people's perception most of the time. Like this, once these companies are on the stock market, they're basically trading between people like me and you, and some professional investors, of course, and our opinions of these companies. I believe it's worth more. I believe it's worth less.
There is a quote that says the stock market is just like a graph of rich people's feelings, basically. It's just like right now, a lot of people are unemployed, right?
Yeah.
But then like the people who are actually like their perceptions, right? Like who are people trading, right? They're usually like more affluent people that have the extra money to spare in the stock market versus like everyone else doesn't really have that opportunity to do it. Is that what you think? Do you think, yeah?
I don't remember the exact numbers, but you know, maybe we can find the stat later on and you can post it up. But I believe it's something like 90% are what's considered normal, non-sophisticated investors. And the other 10% are the professional investors. So I think there's more of everybody in the mix. There's a lot of people who invest in a simple company or two. Somebody really likes Amazon. Somebody really likes, for example, Sony, whatever it might be. And they just put some money in there. They say, I believe this is going to go up in the future. There's a lot of pension funds. So a lot of people pay interest, pay a portion of their income to either a pension fund or whatever it may be, many different institutional investors, and they invest on behalf of lots of different people. So there's quite a good mix. And actually, that goes back to something you asked me earlier about Kuwait. How does the Kuwait stock market work? Well, you see what I told you about how the market, it follows the news that comes in and out. That's because there's a lot of people trading at all times. Almost every stock on the market in the US has somebody trading it at all hours in the day. Well, Kuwait is such a small market that so few trades occur on any given day. So you might find things really lagging and other things really following better. Yeah, so it's a different game altogether. Some of the principles don't apply where some do. And many do, actually.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's good to know. Listen, stock is very, very important. I think everyone really needs to understand stock market and stock trading because, especially for like,
people need to understand finances. I feel like people need to understand finances more than they do, right? Because financial education really is like, so that's, I mean, a huge problem that's happening right now with the whole Black Lives Matter thing and everything is that there isn't like really financial education to all these African Americans, right? Like a lot of these African Americans, they get $1 million, right? But instead of putting in the stock market or putting in, I mean, I don't want to say it, I don't generally, but like a lot of them, the stereotype is that they buy cars, right? They buy whatever is like hot and trendy.
No, Brian in that other episode said so. He said that that's what they end up doing. They just buy cars. And
exactly. Yeah. And Jay-Z has this quote about that you need to teach them instead of like buying cars and stuff, you got to teach them to buy real estate.
Jay-Z said financial freedom, my only hope.
Yes, financial freedom.
Fuck living rich and dying broke.
Yes, exactly.
So, I think it's very easy to look on the outside in and say, they should do this and they should do that. I actually lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years when I did my master's degree, and I did get to see a lot there. But I mean, it's clear there is a problem in the system. There's so many different things. There's so many issues, so many definitely injustices that I think really do need to be fixed. I mean, to say that is, it's very tough. No, I think when you're constantly being put in a corner, when you're constantly unable to move past where you need to be, and one of the really interesting things that happened I was watching a documentary about this, that like the redlining of states, and just anybody within those red lines would be unable to get a loan for a home or a loan for a business or whatever it is, and the banks could easily turn them away, even showing that a wealthy African American family would have a more difficult time than a low income white family getting a simple home loan or such. It just shows you that there was something seriously wrong out there. I mean, people are not going to go and protest on the streets to that extent if things were not that bad. But
that's true.
Yeah, I definitely hope and wish that they sort out a lot of the problems that have happened before, and I really hope that there's a positive change for them.
A positive change.
Because that's better for everybody. The more everybody has better opportunities, everything gets better for everyone collectively.
The better the stock market. Yeah, the better the stock market.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we've reached our time limit here.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was great.
wow.
That flies by way too quick.
Like, that was.
That's so great.
Yeah, because it's a lot of you're taking in a lot of good
How long
stuff.
have we been on?
So,
45 minutes. We can go a little longer if you want, Ali.
Yeah.
If I don't know if you have to
go
go
longer.
I have a question.
I mean,
yeah, dude, we should go for like a little like closer to an hour. All right. So I just wanted to ask. So you're saying that there's like a lot of instability with businesses right now that you don't know what's gonna like take off, what doesn't. But it feels like there are like businesses that are really doing really well with all these in this environment, like Amazon or all these like online businesses right now, while like retail and like home-owned small businesses are shutting down. Is this like, break that down for me? Is it the stability in these big organizations?
Yeah.
Or
it's very interesting. We think about this on a daily basis. Like we have to think about this on a daily basis because it definitely affects how we see things going forward. It affects how we think about investing in the future. You know, right before this crisis, we were set to, make an investment, and now that doesn't look so clear. And for many reasons. I mean, in Kuwait, one of the big problems we have is this whole reducing the number of expats in Kuwait, but with no regard given to some of the real problems and real issues that that causes alone. Like besides the economic one, of course, the more people you have in a certain country, they're the people who are, actively purchasing things like groceries, housing, whatever it might be, which again trickles back into the economy. I don't like to use that word, sorry.
Oil,
or like
right?
it finds its way.
Hasn't oil gotten tanked right now? I don't know how that affects a country like Kuwait.
Yeah, so oil did go down quite a bit, and it hit the famous negative numbers. But I think it's been doing a little better now. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, around the $30-40 mark. But yeah, in the future, things like Amazon and online retailers and everything, those are good, but they only ever made up about maximum 15% of retail sales. This is something, in very developed online markets, it's about 15%. I don't know if it's reached 20, but 5 years ago, it was only like 9-8%. And these behemoths in the electronic or in the e-commerce world were really not representing much of the total retail. But it showed you that little change, how much it affected the normal brick and mortar stores, like, your Macy's and things like that. But we also have a lot of small businesses that are suffering here too. Restaurants have been having a hard time, retail outlets, even the real estate that holds them, like the malls, the commercial centers. These are all a domino effect waiting to happen if things do not, get handled in an appropriate manner.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is definitely uncertain times.
Part of capitalism is like, well, when things change, right, you just got to adapt to the new, and then there goes the old, right? And then the businesses that had their time it's time to go, and now the newer businesses, new fresh businesses, it's time for them to take off. Do you think it's like an exciting time to be like an independent entrepreneur, or is it tough to go against these behemoths right now?
I mean, I wouldn't say it would be easy to go against any of these behemoths. I don't think a lot of them are going anywhere anytime soon. Some specifically have had troubles, like, famous Hertz rental car company. I mean, makes sense. The hospitality industry has faced a lot of issues.
Interesting. Yeah. Air flights.
So I mean, it's quite difficult. I mean, it seems easy to just take any opportunity at this time, but you have many opportunities. Which one do you take? What's the right one, and at what price? And where do you think things are going for this industry that makes you want to take this decision? That's why we tend to stick to real estate mainly, and similar other businesses. Because that's what we know, I guess.
Well, I have a question about real estate also. So I don't know if you know, in Los Angeles particularly, there's tens of thousands of homeless people right here, right? And I'm sure, it's like, so how does that happen where, rent becomes, I don't know if it's like who sets the prices of how high rent prices are, and how does that affect the community? I don't know if you're familiar with Yeah, how this happened, and what's the solution?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm the right person to comment on that, but what I do know is that as more people are highly, like for example in San Francisco or somewhere like that, where you had more and more high-paid engineers and software companies, having much higher incomes and capable of paying much higher rents and demanding better housing or rental properties or whatever it might be. Well, it's just simple supply and demand. As more people are demanding these things and the supply is limited. I mean, San Francisco is a limited space. Rents naturally will go up, and the people who used to be able to afford them at their normal jobs can no longer afford, because you have a completely new class of individual with far higher salaries, and this pushes people out. How that affects and turns into homelessness, I mean, I guess we can just, you can do the math. When people start not being able to pay their rent, they have nowhere to go. But I can't claim to be fully versed in what happens to cause that change or that shift.
Yeah, and what's the solution? I'm not sure, because in Kuwait that doesn't really happen, right? You guys don't have. I'm sure you have a lot of other public aspects that are helping out citizens.
I don't think homelessness is that big of a problem here.
I don't think. Do we have homeless people in Kuwait?
Yeah. Pardon me?
We do? I said, do we have homeless
people?
No,
I'm not sure. I
don't think so. I don't know. I've never heard of it, to be honest.
But I wonder.
But I know what I do
like
know.
Your credit. Sorry.
I was just saying, is it true San Francisco has the highest homeless ratings in the United States?
Oh yeah,
I think they had a very high number.
Homeless. Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah, not great. And Los Angeles, especially, also trying to find the stats here. But yeah. Around the globe.
I think like even things like your credit score that can easily get you trapped in a system where everything starts working against you. You miss one payment, your credit score goes down. Nobody wants to give you any ease in life, and then I can totally see how that can devolve very quickly. It's very tough out there.
It's very tough,
and very, very frequently unfair. Sometimes people are going through a tough time, just hardship, and they get caught in the system like that. And
yeah, that's it's interesting. Yeah, well, it's because it's crazy how like housing, it seems like something that, right, we should all have a house, right? But it doesn't happen for a lot of people for some reason. Well, that so what happens if you don't have a job, right? If you don't have a job, how are you going to pay for your house? This is going to be interesting times.
Exactly.
What's going to happen?
Exactly. So these things are very fragile,
Yeah.
These whole systems are quite fragile.
Yeah, they're quite fragile. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you guys a couple of questions.
Go ahead,
please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This has been kind of fun, actually. I didn't think I would talk this much.
I told you were worried, and I told you it's a conversation.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, learned a lot.
Which is really, it's fun. Yeah, I learned a lot too. Like, this is very interesting. I wish they taught us this in school.
Yeah, well, that's why we're teaching everyone, dude. That's why people should watch this, obviously. Because we're learning all together.
I hope it was useful. How's your experience been with what you guys are doing? This is episode 15, you said, right?
Episode 15.
Yeah. Episode 15.
Tell me, what's your experience like? How did you guys come to it?
You want to tell them the story, or should I? On how we started the podcast?
Ali, go for it. How did it happen? How did it start together? Yeah.
So I was about to sleep. It was like 4 a.m. my time. And I get this call from Ali, and it's really weird because Ali doesn't usually call that often. So it's like, yo, listen, I'm Ali and you're Ali. We both grew up together, except you're studying medicine in Jordan, and I'm a film director and behavioral psychologist in Los Angeles. You want to start a podcast? I was literally silent for a minute, and I was like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
We have the
So tell me a little bit about behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
You got me a little interested. What is that?
Behavioral therapy is basically work with different people that have behavioral challenges, right? You have everyone has behaviors. Some of us have a lot of good habits and good behaviors, and some of us have a lot of bad habits and bad behaviors, right? And my job is to work with different clients, with different behavioral challenges to help like bring down problem behaviors and to help them work independently in society, basically. And it's all it's all in behavior, basically. That's what I'm working with. It's all data track.
Well, could you give me 3 examples of very common bad behaviors and good behaviors and
I mean, bad, like
what they do to people?
Yeah, bad behaviors: sleeping, right? Sleeping bad. That's a very bad behavior that you can fix. That a lot of people, I mean, if you like sleep at the same, I mean, it's hard to, it's like, but it should be a priority to fix that. Sleep, bad food, right? Bad exercise. These are like 3 habits, right? That a lot of people are like, it really makes who you are as a person. At least like, but it's like, if you're like, these are also like physical mostly, but if you're physically and doing right behaviors every single day, then those things will stick and they become habits, and you have a lot of good behaviors.
I fixed my bad behaviors. I used to weigh 140. I'm now 114. Let's go.
There you go. No, I mean, that's true. Yeah.
Wow.
But these are changes. So basically it just takes, like, you can take any challenge you have, right? Whether it's, I mean, like something like depression, right? Depression, a lot of the times people are depressed because they aren't doing things they like to do, or they're not around people they like, right? So what are these concrete behaviors and actions you can do that can change change your relationship with the world, basically? I hope that answers your question. Or if anything else you can ask also. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you been working recently in this environment?
I've been for a year and a half. I've been working for a year and a half as like a behavioral therapist. I got my license like 2 months ago. I'm a registered behavior technician.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's good. And I've been working with people different ages, and younger to older, and it's great, and it's good. It's good helping people, and
that's incredible.
It's great. Thank you.
Good job. And you're interviewing people on the side. That's amazing.
Yeah, interviewing people on the side every day. Every day, dude. It's every day. This is part of my habits now. Part of my habit is waking up in the morning.
Yep, this is our
and doing this podcast.
It's a good habit.
It's a good habit. Yeah. That's part of the reason why we want to do this daily. As Ali was like asking, he was like, Ali, should we do this daily? I was like, dude, you don't understand how much of an effect it has on us if we do it daily. I was asleep, and Ali called my brother. He was like, I overslept. He had to call my brother, but I woke up and I'm right in the zone, right? Because I'm used to it every day at this time. I'm used to being in the zone and talking to people, right? So even if like I was just like asleep like an hour ago, right now I'm like,
Ali, for Ali, it's for me, I'm in the middle of doing this stupid shit, and then it's like, oh,
helping people.
I gotta interview a bunch of cool ass people, and medically. That's medically. Anyways, but yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
That's so. Before we end off, anything would you like to shout out? Anything?
Is there anything you'd like to say or shout out
any?
I mean, nothing off the top of my head, but if I find it, I'll let you guys put it in the comments, I guess.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll put it down in the description.
The comment description below. 2 cats. Movie.
2 cats.
Ali. Yo, Ali, when's 2 cats coming out? Come on, bro. They want to know. They're killing me.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Tell us about 2 cats.
2 cats. This is my little movie here. Yes.
As I said, he's
is that your illustration?
No, that's my friend Nabil Tawil, an excellent, beautiful artist. And he made this little poster.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and wait, I'm excited. Some more movie. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yeah.
If it all comes together.
Congratulations.
I'm going to give it a little bit
Make sure to link it.
Definitely.
2 cats. It's a movie about 2 cats.
Coming soon.
Well, I couldn't tell that.
Coming soon. All right.
Coming soon. Blueberry Die.
Also.
Little bro, Hadi made a game. I'm in the game. Ali's in the game.
That is true.
It's out on Android.
It is out on Android.
It's out on Android.
We're waiting for the Apple release. That is true. Yeah.
And man, Apple.
Well, I guess you guys can shoot me links to all of those.
Of course.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I would love to check it out.
Definitely.
And congratulations on the podcast, on the movies, on the work you're doing, and all the best. And thanks for having me, guys.
No, thank you for coming.
I don't know if
good to have you.
Thank you for coming. I don't know if you've been watching any episodes, but this is how we sign off. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and peace.